Just one for the short side of the corner, if you could. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Right up top, please. There you go, thank you. Right in the middle, sir. Thank you.
We got a couple quick signals, you guys.
Quick signal.
Quick shot.
Just a quick please, sir. Perfect. Thank you. Right about right in the middle. Right side, sir. Daniel, my camera. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
It's now my great pleasure to welcome the cast of the film Looper,
Argo, Spring Breakers,
Cloud Atlas,
Hotel Transylvania.
Silver Linings Playbook.
It just feels like a real film festival for the community.
It's very exciting for me to be here to support a film.
I wanted to show Toronto the way I experience it.
We want people to like our movies and understand them.
What makes it really special for me is the fact that the audiences have responded the way they have.
If I got lucky in the first two, this was the lottery.
I feel like I hit the jackpot. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm sitting at a table, flanked by these people.
Every producer I've ever worked with is in that character. And a couple I invented.
You have to be faithful to what they really were.
But I certainly wouldn't, deign to think that we are godfathering anything.
I do.
And that's why he's got the beard.
First nice thing the press have ever done.
I was really happy to find out this is where we were coming.
I said, I'm in.
The festival of the people who live here.
That was amazing. Our moderator for today is Johanna Schneller, and it is now my pleasure to welcome the director, screenwriter, and cast of The F Word. Thank you.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Is this on?
Yes.
They should be on. Hey everybody, thanks so much for coming to the TIFF press conference for the film The F Word. I'm very pleased to have with me key members of the filmmaking team. To my left is Michael Dowse, the director.
Hello.
Next to him, Zoe Kazan, who plays Chantry. Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Wallace. Megan Park, who's Chantry's sister Dahlia. Adam Driver, who's their friend Alan. And our writer, Ilan Mastai. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Michael, I'm going to start with you. Toronto looks so great in this movie. Was that part of your goal, to just kind of show Toronto as a sort of sexy...
We actually shot Chicago for Toronto.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Amazing. I mean, I looked at a lot of sort of classic romantic comedies, and one of the signatures is a lot of them sort of, feature the city, and I thought, Toronto hadn't really been featured like that before, and so I really wanted to, find a romantic setting within Toronto. I thought Toronto had been sort of treated very sort of coldly, sort of the grays and the blues, and very metropolitan sort of look, and I looked at the beaches and the water. There's a ton of water around Toronto, which I think would give it a really romantic feel, and I think it helps in these films where you have a real good sense of where they live and where they are, and it's such a beautiful, multicultural metropolis now. I thought it would really accent and help the film a lot.
Ilan, when you were writing it, did you start with like a scene or a moment? What was your sort of spark, and where'd you take it from there?
Well, before I started writing it, I did what I like to call like intensive research from ages 15 to 25. Where I just put myself in a series of situations much like this, just so that I would be able to write the movie with a level of authenticity that audiences would respond to. I mean, like, honestly, you start writing something like this because you're working something through, and then it takes a couple of years to get the movie made, and so you keep kind of returning to it at different phases in your life, and it's like I feel like I started writing the movie and I was Wallace, and then I became like Alan and Nicole, and then I became Chantry, and then it became sort of like, you know, on the other side of it, and being able to look back on that time in my life, and so yeah, you kind of, as you know, because films can take a long time to get made, you sort of end up coming back to the same story with different perspectives, which hopefully translates to the different characters in the movie.
Right. Adam, your character has a sort of parallel story to the leads. And what I love about this movie is that it plays out a very modern feeling of romance that also seems timeless. What did you guys do to kind of, did you feel that as you were shooting it? And what attracted you to this story?
I guess we didn't really talk about it as far as big picture thing. We just kind of took it scene by scene, and it just kind of went off like initial impulses about it. I mean, I guess what attracted to me or me to it was I just finished something right before that was kind of intense, and when this came, the writing was so fast and had such a great pace to it, and the world seemed something completely different. And then when I found that this specific group of people were involved in it, and you know, and talking to Michael on the phone, it kind of, I don't really have any foresight or mostly intelligence as a person, so I usually just go with no-brainer gut decisions, and so it kind of just seemed like an obvious, like, oh, I want to live in that world for a bit with that group of people.
Megan, your scenes with Zoe have such a great, spontaneous, sisterly feel to them. I imagine most of it was scripted. Was there room to play within the script as well?
Yeah, there was a lot of room, and I think that Zoe actually has a sister who's my age, and I have a sister who's Zoe's age. So it was really easy for us to just kind of slip into that role, and we quickly established a banter, and Michael let us just go crazy on set. I think at one point he yelled, "Hey, can you guys do that scene again, but don't use cat voices this time?" I was like, I didn't even know that we were talking like cats.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, we have to hear a cat voice right now.
I don't even know. I think it was Zoe who was doing it.
Cat voice. Is that the cat voice you say in the end of the movie when you say I was cleaning out my fridge?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
I was like,
Megan, how are you doing?
It also is a hand gesture. Like
no, I think it was more like our cat.
There's a bit of this here.
You're outing me so hard.
Sorry, but basically it was just really easy for us to have a sisterly banter and rapport, and Michael just let us go crazy, which was fun.
And I have two younger sisters, and so for me also, like, capturing that was important. It's funny, I sat next to my sister at the premiere, and she like elbowed me at one point, because I think something that she often says to my other sister was like in the movie, and she's like, "Hey, 10%.
More than 10, I think.
Come on, I'm negotiating. The negotiation is in process right now, so don't get involved, Zoe.
You're the baby in the family, right?
I'm the eldest.
All right, well then you win.
Yeah, I rule with an iron fist.
Zoe, one of the things that I really appreciate about this film is that a lot of times when a person is kind of torn between two people that they love, it's sort of played for laughs, or one or the other of them is minimized. And what I love about this one is that you show the difficulty of that situation within the comedy, like the real sadness of knowing that you might hurt somebody. Talk a little bit about that place your characters in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she's in a place where she's basically constructed her life so that she doesn't lose anything. You know, she had a major loss of losing her mother at 13, and I think that really informs the way that she approaches her life. I think it makes her like more cautious as a person and probably take fewer risks. I think like turning down the Taiwan job, which she does early in the movie, is a kind of emblematic of that, of like she wants to stay where she is with the people she loves and not have anything change. And then this sort of like loop gets thrown at her, and she has to figure out what she wants. I really related to the kind of feeling that you have in your mid or late 20s of being like, all the choices that you make are suddenly important, and like when you break a bone it doesn't heal as well, and that there's some feeling of, you know, for the first time things have consequence, and who you're with is who you are, and all of that I think it's a real place of turmoil. Even though the movie is really funny, I think it was important for me to feel like, you know, it's not choosing between, you know, dull domestic life and like sexy new person, that it's more about like, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to have?
Mm-hmm. Daniel, People might know you from some other films that you've done. And at this festival, you have 3 very, very different movies. You know, Horns, quite dark, and Kill Your Darlings, you know, very serious biopic, this lovely comedy. Was that a, you know, strategic decision? Was that luck? Talk to us a little bit about where you're going with your...
I mean, ultimately, all I can sort of base decisions on is this kind of the scripts I get and what I love and respond to. And it certainly wasn't strategy that they would all be at TIFF. But, you know, it's just sometimes things just sort of work out that way. But I'm very glad they have, because and it's exciting, as you say, because they are 3 such different films. So I'm excited that people will finally sort of get a chance to see me doing different stuff. Absolutely.
Right, you range. Let's start with some questions. Yes? Front row.
Good afternoon, Bruce Kirkland, Toronto Sun. Another question for Daniel Radcliffe that picks up on the energy and incisive, crazy Canadian humor I'm hearing in this room right now from your colleagues here. And I'm curious how you responded to this kind of loopy insight into the Canadian nature and channel that into this movie.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that Canadian humor is necessarily that different from English, particularly. I mean, I had an amazing time. I had a great time working. I did both the F Word and Horns, both in Canada, kind of one after the other, and I had a fantastic time. You've got great crews and great people. I didn't find you. You know. I didn't know, not at all. I felt very at home here, and I was made to feel very welcome. So yeah, I think
he's actually the loopiest out of all of us.
Right, there you go. So maybe that's why I didn't notice.
In the middle there, thanks.
Do you think, guys, if this is for Daniel, do you think guys and girls can be just friends? And also, what's your relationship like with Emma Watson now?
I mean, to be honest, like, I haven't spoken to Emma in a while. So you know, I guess I mean we haven't. I mean, I'm sure I'll bump into her at some point. But I think we were all together for sort of 10 years. So you know, we're excited to be going off and working with new people now. I think is kind of and can guys and girls definitely be friends? Well, yes, absolutely. You know, as Zoe said to me last night on stage, do you have any female friends? And the answer is yes. Have you slept with all of them? The answer is no. So yes, they can. Thank you.
I think you should add a yet, though, to the addendum there.
Yet.
Yeah.
This gentleman.
Yeah, we see that, Daniel, that you keep the magic going with your movies. And I wonder, with Harry Potter, do you want people to forget that you are not Harry Potter anymore? Do you miss it at all?
I mean, not particularly. I you know, it was 10 years and we had a fantastic time, but you know, it's really exciting to have sort of moved on now and to be doing other things. You know, I'm always going to be incredibly proud of it, and like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you all if it wasn't for Harry Potter. Like I'm under no sort of illusions about that, but yeah, I mean, I don't particularly miss it. I miss some of the crew, and I miss, you know, that's people I don't get to see as much. But no, I'm very happy doing other things now.
Hi, I'm Rebecca from Glamour in the UK. Congratulations, I absolutely loved the film. I thought it was fantastic. My question is for Daniel and Zoe. Your relationship throughout is really electric, and I just wondered how much prep work you put into your relationship before filming started and how you kind of prepared.
I mean, we had some days rehearsal, which was fantastic and really, really useful. And essentially my process was just to get to set and start taking the piss out of Zoe all day, and then she did the same to me, and it was that was it really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a large part of like what people call chemistry is just like being curious about the other person, and I find Dan like genuinely super interesting and fun to be around, and it wasn't hard at all to be curious about him, and also, you know, he's just like a beast off of set, so it was really nice to be on set where he couldn't beat everyone.
Sorry, Linda has the mic.
Linda Barnard from the Toronto Star. Hi. Michael, we're used to seeing more hoserish, muscular things from you with Goon, which was so superb, and we love
You think we don't have muscles?
That's what I'm getting to. I want to talk to you about your hoser muscle. How is this going to fit in with you?
My hoser muscle?
I do, later. You promise.
This is taking a dark turn.
I know.
I can send you some web links if you want to learn about his hoser muscle. I have a blog.
There you go. You were asking about Canadian humor. There it is. what this film really succeeds as that very rare thing, a Canadian rom-com. It took a long time for this to come to fruition. What is the special secret behind it, and was setting it in Toronto the way to make this succeed so well?
Setting in Toronto. No, I think it all starts with the script, and I think we were all lucky to get such a great script from Alon. And I fell in love with the script first. It's rare that you get a script that's that really pushes the romance with the comedy, and I think that's what makes this film stick out from some of the other sort of maybe ones that don't work as well. Is our film, the two characters use comedy as a way to flirt and as a way to get closer, and the thing that I love the most is that as the film goes on, the comedy becomes a sign of their affection and their love for each other, and the more they take the piss out of each other, it's sort of of them saying to each other, I love you, I forgive you, let's try this. In terms of making a Canadian rom-com, I mean, as a filmmaker, I am Canadian, but I don't try to strategize my stories to be quote-unquote Canadian. I just try to make them work and make them work at a universal level. So with this film in particular, I was after making Goon and making something that sort of had quite a caustic sort of reaction from people, and I was excited to make something a little quieter and gentler and do something which didn't rely as much on editing, but sort of let the performances happen in the frame and let the actors act and not try to build the moment with editing, but actually capture the moment with the camera. So that's sort of my MO for this movie.
Can you talk a little bit about assembling your cast? Because it really is such a beautiful cast.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very lucky that all these wonderful actors said yes. And, it started with Dan, and once we got Dan in as a cornerstone, and that was quite a quick, turnaround where we sent him the script, and, we were on a Skype call within a week, and I was sitting down with him in London within 2 weeks, and he was on board. And then I was fortunate enough to see Ruby Sparks and see Zoe talk, and then had a chance to meet with her, and everything just fell into place really, really nicely. So it always sort of snowballs like that when you cast, but this snowball was amazing, and I was very lucky to catch it.
Front row, please.
Hi, Julie Gordon from Reuters. Again, a question for Michael.
Sure.
So we're seeing a lot of really great Canadian films at TIFF this year. Do you think that there's something that's sort of happened, or we've sort of reached a pinnacle point in Canadian cinema?
I think we've reached a starting point, actually. I think we're at the start of something really great, and I think it's a sign of our system nurturing directors and letting them tell stories that aren't necessarily hinged to being completely commercial. And I think we're also seeing, it's also a bit of a byproduct of the market where a bit of the independent studio system in the States has dropped out a little bit. So that sweet spot of sort of a budget where you can really do something with the film and make it look good and attract the talent that you need, it doesn't necessarily exist as much as it used to 5 or 6 years ago, but it does exist up here. So you're seeing actors or directors that have been able to tell their stories and attract talent really start working with bigger budgets and break out south of the border. And I think we're an example of that, but I think Denis Villeneuve and Jean-Marc Vallée, as well as Ken Scott and Philippe Farledeau are examples of, and Xavier Dolan are all examples of directors that are making stories that work beyond the Canadian spectrum. So I think it's a really exciting time for Canadian filmmakers.
Just to follow up on that, still alive, any plans to go Hollywood?
I've been Hollywood and back. So yeah, I would love to make another Hollywood film. So yeah, I always keep an iron in the fire down there, but I'm very happy making films up here as well.
I think there was a time when it was like people were excited, just like, oh, you made a movie in Canada? And I think that generation as well since passed. I mean, we've had filmmakers who are operating on a global level for filmmakers that are coming up, like for Mike and I mean, we have people who blaze the trail before us, but now we just want to make movies that everybody around the world can see. And that's our expectation now, is we're targeting to be like, it's not just, oh, you made a movie. It's, yeah, we made a movie and we want the whole world to see it because we've established that the whole world is interested in what we have to say. I mean, not me specifically, not that many people are interested in what I have to say, but I meant us as filmmakers.
We all want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yes?
Again, for Daniel, is it true that while you were doing theater in London, you wore the same jacket and the same hat to get rid of the paparazzis?
Yeah.
Is that a way to use the F word to them?
That was 7 years ago now, but yes, I did at the time. I wasn't able to be quite so covert this time at the theatre because paparazzi just realised I sort of was cornered there for 6 weeks. But yeah, I certainly anything that I have, I want to say to them. I try to keep in my head. It's definitely for the best.
There is a sandwich in this movie that is really quite something, and I want to know if any of you actually made the sandwich. Did anybody actually taste the sandwich?
I did.
Tell us about it,
Do you have
Milan.
some as well?
For anybody who might not have seen the film, can you describe the sandwich?
I think I remember the speech. It is it's the sandwich is called Fool's Gold, and it's a loaf of Italian white bread. You cut it in half, hollow out. No,
That's amazing. No.
Coat it in butter, you bake it.
coat in butter, bake it. Then you hollow out both halves, fill it with an entire jar of peanut butter, then an entire jar of jam, and then you stuff it with a pound of crispy bacon. And it
I am
is
amazed.
exactly what you would think it tastes like. It's fantastic.
I mean, Dan, we had 4 of them made on the set on the day that we shot, and I think Dan was or maybe you had some too. You two are the only ones who had some.
Yeah.
I don't know why not anyone It's not like anyone's gonna be tempted to eat some at home. Like you're gonna have a Fool's Gold loaf lying around. Like it's the one chance in your life to have something that crazy.
Although we tried because it looked so ridiculous and delicious when they were making it, and then so we tried some, and then afterwards I found out from the prop guy that they'd actually sprayed it with something to make it kind of like glisten on camera more. I didn't tell you that, so we've both been poisoned.
We're both still here.
Yeah,
I guess we're fine.
It's been several months. I'm sure
yeah.
any internal damage our bodies can compensate for it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be
but
fine.
I could use some medicine if anyone has it.
Speaking of food scenes, Adam, you have a great moment with the plate of nachos, and a great line about how this might be the greatest moment of your life. We talked a little bit about this yesterday about how much excitement to show in that scene and how many different versions that you had. Michael, do you remember that shooting that day?
Oh,
And,
yeah.
what was the sort of range of emotion that Adam showed in that scene?
I just remember one point. I mean, I always loved that line in the script, and I think I asked you to shout it or yell it at one point. I think that was what had happened. It was. I love that scene though. I love Adam's choice of making the banana talk. I've taken that line and actually putting it in the banana's mouth. I mean it's a great scene, and it's that scene used to be a lot earlier in the cut, and we ended up moving it much later, and it actually I think it works much better later because it sort of restates the stakes, at that point, and just sort of restates where everybody is in a very interesting way, because everything that he's talking about now at this point. You've met Megan, you know what job he has. I think it gives it more context to make it even funnier. But it's what I liked. My favorite reaction from the screen last night was that the big laugh when it actually pulls out and you reveal Dan sitting across the table from Mackenzie and him making out. It's I love that shot.
I actually like the line, the reaction to the line of I've just had sex and I'm about to eat nachos.
Yeah.
Because then there was just like this amazing male reaction from a lot of the room being like, yes, I've had that moment. That moment rules.
There was a round of applause.
It was.
Yes. It is a lovely modern definition of happiness, right? Isn't it? Like, what could be better
Simple
than that?
pleasures.
Question?
I just wanted to ask you, Daniel and Zoe, the average Torontonian won't get into Lake Ontario if you pay them. What was it like for the two of you to strip
speak
off
up on
and jump
this?
in? What was that like?
No one told us. No one. It's poisonous. No one told us that we would get syphilis and gonorrhea from going into Lake Ontario.
But Zoe, we had syphilis and gonorrhea medication available as soon as you got out. I don't know what you're complaining about.
I had already had it. It was fine. It was actually lovely. I'm so glad to know after the fact that I'd been poisoned. So glad I didn't know before we ran in. Adam
I'm
too.
literally finding out now.
Yeah. Really, right now?
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Do you know the Gowanus Canal in Brooklyn?
No.
All right. Think of a toxic waste dump.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm thinking of it.
That's what we were in.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It was very pleasant for that.
It was. Yeah. That's why it was so warm. Nuclear reaction.
There was actually a nuclear reaction.
I think it was made actually quite because we were told it was going to be very, very cold. And as Zoe said last night, it was freezing the day before, and so we were kind of dreading it. But we did sort of luck out onto a quite a nice, warm night, and it was actually, I think, because we've been dreading it, it was a lot better than we'd expected. But now in retrospect, I'm angry again because of the poison.
Mackenzie and Adam went in first, which definitely at least like brought my courage up.
Yeah, you were like, well, we can't.
Just knowing that we couldn't puss out after
exactly.
that. Yeah.
I would just like to say, as somebody who lives in Toronto, I have to defend Lake Ontario. I've gone swimming in Lake Ontario. The E. coli counts. It's not that high. You might grow a 6th toe, but you won't grow a 7th, 8th, or 9th. And people never get tails anymore. So I just want to say that it's actually a lot cleaner than you think. No, we didn't put you in any serious danger. It's more of a long-term thing. Like, you won't actually find out what happened to you for like 25
years.
Right.
In 20 years, I will suddenly be a man.
It's actually more intergenerational.
Yeah, it's more like your children's children.
And my grandchildren turn out wrong.
For the record, the beaches do fly the green flag.
They
They have
absolutely
been checked out, just so. Don't let these guys slow you.
Slandering the beaches of Canada.
Is there a question in the back? Yes?
Everyone's reaction is this.
To be fair, the reason we're so shocked is because everyone's been going, "You did that? Why? You're crazy." So it's not just like us Ontario bashing.
No, let's go back in today.
Yeah. We'll take you all with us. Next question.
I have a question for Adam. Your character's extremely kind of impulsive and a little bit erratic, and we've kind of seen that character from you before in Girls. How much of that is you? How much of that is your personality?
I don't know. I'm how much of my personality? But I don't know. I don't feel I'm.
Basically, is that you in the film that we're seeing? A little bit.
No, probably. I mean, well, a version of my. I feel like everything's kind of a version of yourself, different. Like a big equalizer, and you raise things more and less, and it's not great. That's my answer.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
This generation gets accused a lot of being like the hookup generation and not the romance generation. But I wonder if any or all of you could speak to the notion of, does romance change over time? Does love change? Is it a constant? Is there a generational thing? Are we affected by the internet? Are we affected by the technology? Do we still have faith in love?
Can I play a little game?
Yes.
Hey, Adam, how long have you been with your wife?
Like 7 years.
Megan, how long have you been with your boyfriend?
7 years.
Do you want to know how long I've been with my boyfriend? 6 years. So I don't think that we're really the people. How long is your longest relationship? Like 100 years?
3 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, like,
I'm not like. Hooking up is not fun. Like, I mean, like it might be for some people, but like I don't know. It's much more fun if you're actually like enjoying the person's company who you're with. So yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's like I feel like half of my friends are people who like just are looking for long-term love, and the other half of my friends are people who have been in like 6-7 year relationships. So.
I mean, I got asked a question on the carpet last night by somebody who said, like, what do you think's the difference with love today? And I was like, none. What a strange question. Like, I don't think that there would be anything that
There's
changes.
sex tapes.
There's sex tape, but there were probably sex etchings at one point, weren't there?
A little chiaroscuro.
They're really hard on the artist's wrists.
The walls of ancient Rome were covered. Elan, you said you spent 25 years doing research. You obviously had faith that the constants would remain constant, that the truths would remain true.
Yeah, look, I mean, the romantic comedy can be a bit of a debased genre because you see ones where people behave like sociopaths. And, so many romantic comedies, it's sort of what Dan's character says when they're leaving the movie, it becomes the all-purpose excuse for bad behavior. And we see these movies where people, lie and manipulate and hide things and have these kind of like elaborate kind of cockamamie schemes to try to get somebody to fall in love with them. And I mean, that nobody does that in real life. And I feel like in our real lives, our real lives are complicated and hilarious and emotionally moving enough just if you can kind of keep a texture. And, something, for me, I always joke that like in this movie, anytime anybody behaves like it's a romantic comedy, then the movie smacks them down. You know, anytime anybody does something where it's like, we're in a romantic comedy, I'm going to do what somebody should do in a romantic comedy, the movie like knocks them down to the mat and is like, no, what would you really do? What would a real person do? And I found that both to be more relatable and universal and grounded, and also funnier, because you're not watching marionettes orchestrating some sort of, grand scheme. You're watching real people struggling through a complicated situation with, hopefully wit and a little bit of grace.
And the grandest gesture that your character makes, Daniel, actually does end up with him being literally smashed down.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example of what Alain's talking about. I don't know if I should say what exactly goes into that part of the movie, but like I do get very literally, I get punched for my pains, and it's. I totally agree. Reading the script, the fact that any kind of sentimentality or leaning towards romantic comedy things was just undercut immediately by something happening, and not allowed to. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, we wanted to do like an ethical romantic comedy, And I mean, that doesn't mean that people don't make bad decisions. I mean, you can try to be doing the right thing and still make a disaster of your personal life. In fact, most of us do many times through our lives. And so, but the idea of, instead of trying to, as an ethical romantic comedy, something where people are trying to do the right thing, that maybe they're just not, maybe the timing's off, or they're just not being honest with themselves. I mean, we talked about that when we were making the movie, that idea of the theme, like you can't lie your way to happiness.
Question.
About love and friendship, Daniel, how hard is it to date someone when you are so famous and you get so much attention?
It's not particularly, hard. It's not particularly hard. I mean, I've always had relationships and been in relationships, so it's not something that I've found to be particularly tricky. I mean, it's very easy to tell if someone's genuine or not. Like I think people think that there's more of an art to figuring out who's trustworthy or who you actually want to spend time around. It's not really an issue.
What about the fans? Would you date the fan at all?
I think that would be weird. I think that would be like a weird, just the weird of me. That would make me very strange. I think in some ways, like that would maybe be not. Yeah, no, that's seems like a kind of horrible move, doesn't it?
Masturbatory,
exactly, just kind of unpleasant thing to do.
Any questions in the back? Yes, front row.
Daniel, could you tell us your dating turn-ons and turn-offs?
Just like if I'm having a terrible time, then it's a turn off, and if I'm having a good time, then it's good. Like I don't know. Like if you get on with the person and you have if I'm laughing, that's generally a good sign. But I don't know. I really don't know.
Corn on the cob. Long walks in the rain.
It's a huge turn-on when people just rub feces all over their bodies.
Yeah, you like that. So that's a good way if you're interested. And then people who can vomit into the air and catch it right in their mouths. I know that you mentioned that.
You can quote any of this as being my dating turn-on. So.
Yeah.
Any more questions in the back there? Yes?
This question's for Zoe and Daniel. Both of your characters are fairly socially awkward, and you both play that very convincingly.
Funny that.
Was it difficult to get into that state, and how much of a difference was there between you and your characters in terms of being social?
Sorry, what was the first part of the question?
Was it difficult to get into the state of being socially awkward?
Not for me.
I didn't realize you were being awkward, that's great acting.
I mean, I definitely think that this is the first time in anything I've done that I've kind of been allowed to, let a lot more of my own personality come through. And to be honest, like what comes across as awkwardness isn't really me feeling awkward. It's me just stuttering a lot, really. And it's not that I feel awkward. It's just that I look awkward. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I think part of what comes off as, or maybe what you're calling awkward, is just that it's not polished. That we're trying to go for a very, like Alain was saying, like a very real version of a romantic comedy. That we wanted these to feel like people that in your life, and not like, airbrushed personality, face, everything. Yeah.
Although I would be lying if I said I ever got much more polished than that. Like that's about as polished as I get, I think, in my flirting.
Yeah. I mean, just add alcohol, I'd probably get like 3% less polished, and that's the range.
Question in the front row.
Follow up to all of this about the universality of romantic comedy, but because it is an independent picture, what are the chances that this film will be seen on a wide basis across Canada, throughout the United States, back in Britain? What are its commercial potential? Like, what is the commercial potential for an independent Canadian picture?
No, it's. I mean, we're right in the middle of that right now as we speak. So, I think I think it has a massive appeal. I think anybody can relate to this story, and I think it's funny, and we have a great cast that carry this movie on their shoulders. And I think the film can relate to anybody who sees it. And I think girls will. It's like almost like the perfect date movie. Girls will go see it, and the boyfriends will come and won't throw up in their own mouth. So it's a it works. Guys will enjoy it, and they won't feel like they're being forced to go see a romantic comedy. In terms of the release date and the scale, I know they're currently working on a domestic deal, and I know in the UK it's going to have a wide release, in Canada it'll have a wide release. The US, they're in the midst of that right now. So I think the sky's the limit for this film. I mean, they've done such a great job with this film, the actors, and I think it's funny, and funny works, across all borders. Anybody can laugh at something.
Or we could just destroy all prints of the film and just those 2 screenings that we had. That's it. And it will live in legend.
Like a sand mandala.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly like that. That's what I was going to suggest.
This was a very expensive sand mandala.
Yeah, that was the plan.
One of the things that I think really contributes to the feeling of these people being real people is that the world is very populated. They have friends, they have colleagues. A lot of times in romantic comedies, it's sort of the 2 leads and maybe like one other person. Can you talk a little bit about populating the movie and how important that was to you, first as the writer and then director?
Go ahead. Yeah, I wanted to write a script that felt like people's real lives. You have people in your lives, and they also have their own experiences. And people, my friends, like, we argue about stuff, and they give me a hard time, and I give them a hard time back. And we wanted the chemistry that. Obviously, the chemistry between Wallace and Chantry was crucial, but we wanted that chemistry to exist between everybody. Yeah. And as a writer, I feel like my job is to try to create these characters that have distinct voices and have distinct senses of humor. And Mike talked a little bit about that idea of the language of sort of the sense of humor and the kind of the language that develops between Wallace and Chantry. And I think we felt like that with all the characters. Old friends like Dan and Adam's characters in the movie. You have your own kind of language, the way you talk, and we see that. And sisters have that kind of specific language, the way they talk, the way that Dahlia super exaggerates everything, and Chantry completely gets that and just sort of just lets it run right off of her. And then what we're seeing, which I love, and which is a testament to what Mike and Dan and Zoe were able to do, is we see this new language being developed between these 2 characters, and we're seeing it actually happen from the moment they meet and where that blossoms. So that was a real thrill for me.
And I think also, the side characters are so important in these movies. I think Ilan touched on that earlier, but I think you look at the character of Ben, the boyfriend, that's a crucial character to this film. And I think hats off to Rafe for what could be a very thankless role. And he handled it with a lot of grace in terms of giving it a real character. And you actually care about Ben. You actually care what happens to this guy. And he's not just a sort of this archetypal boyfriend who might be bad or, he makes the decision really hard for the character. And I think it's decisions like that with the side characters, as well as, with Adam's character and with Megan's character, they need to feel real, and it adds so much to our main characters. Like, I think Adam and Dan's character, it's great how opposite they are, because you can understand them as college roommates. You can understand them because they're friends and because they look so different. I think it adds to them sort of being as close as they are, and I think that speaks volumes to our main characters and really infuses them with a lot of likability.
But I also think that in the script, there are main characters in the movie, but there aren't main characters in these people's lives. Like, I don't think that either Wallace or Chantry think of themselves as the star of the show. So when I watch the movie, and it's a real testament to you guys' work, like I don't feel like it's a movie about two people. I feel like it's a movie about like a group of people, and we're looking at two people in the center of it.
Yeah, like, I mean, you guys are the two. I mean, everybody cares what happens with you two guys.
No,
you
I
know what
I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just mean that like it feels very.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a true ensemble to me,
Yep.
in that like I'm equally interested in, or
For sure.
I'm more interested in everybody else because I'm a psychopath watching myself. But you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's as a writing exercise. Anytime I write a scene, I always think about what if the other. I try to think of the scene from if every character in the scene is the protagonist. You know, what because we're just seeing a piece of that character's story. So I always look at every scene as like, well, what if I reformatted it from this character's perspective? They're our protagonist, and we're watching their movie. What would they do in the scene? Because that's what we're all like in real life.
Mhm.
And I also want to say, I mean, like to me, it's a testament to the kind of environment that Mike created as the director on set. Because as a writer, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. And he was an incredible partner, but he created this environment on set where people like wanted to hang out even when they weren't shooting. You know, we would all hang out in that sense of camaraderie and that sense of us, you know, falling into each other's lives and getting to know each other. And you know, and I mean, that was because of the tone and the tenor that Mike, as our sort of captain, brought to the ship. I think I kept that. Did I keep that metaphor consistent all the way through? I was going to go into like a baseball team thing.
More nautical. You're going to go there.
Yeah.
I'm salty.
Any more questions from? Okay, we've got one more from you. Thanks.
Hey, Daniel, we've been watching you for so long, and I was wondering, for you, how it feels to see your life growing up on the screen.
I don't look back on the Potter films or anything I've done really since doing it. So I don't see myself as having grown up like that. And also, you know, I did my own growing up, you know, obviously on set sometimes, but also, you know, kind of away from camera. So, you know, my youth and my adolescence is still very much mine, and I don't feel like that was shared with the world, thankfully. And yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a lovely feeling to sort of look back and have all that behind you. Is you know, yeah, it makes you very proud.
No, but more specifically, what does it feel like to chart your physical decay as you have gone from such a fresh-faced youth to now?
I know.
You know.
Well, that is the depressing aspect of it, really. That's why I don't look back, because I just look at Potter 1 and just go, oh, I was so young.
You were so adorable.
I know.
And now,
it's all falling apart.
It's just so
wizened.
Yeah.
Wizard to wizened in one fell swoop. Did you have one more question? Okay.
Megan and Zoe, you touched upon there was kind of an element of your relationship off screen and that kind of coming into filming. I just wondered, with any of the other guys in the film, how much of that was completely to the script, or whether there was any improvisation in some of the funny exchanges that you all had?
I mean, the script is fantastic. So for me, I mean, I've made films that are completely improvised. I make films that are like sort of half and half improvised. This one was much more sort of, I'd say 70, 80, 20, 30. You know, it's the dialogue was really so strong that it was kind of the first time in my career that I'd had many times used improv as a bit of a Band-Aid or as a bit of like, okay, we got to juice this scene a little bit more. But many times we try, and it was really hard to improve what the script was there. But we tried to pinpoint moments where we thought, let's get two cameras, let's let these guys roll, like in the diner at the opening party, or the diner when they're talking about pickles, and really just give the actors a chance to just talk and get their own cadence and have fun. And I think that really seeps into the film and gives, speaks to their chemistry, and just giving them the time to develop that chemistry, I think was crucial. And they're so funny, these two guys, everybody. I mean, and I'm a big proponent of throwing in jokes, or anytime you want to sort of go off, as long as we get the script first. Once we get that, let's go play. And it's just a really fun way to make a movie, and I think the actors enjoy it because they get to get invested in it and put their own personality and their own sense of humor into it. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the stuff that, just having the option of improvisation there, and knowing that, you know, we can go off if we want, that in itself creates a freedom if you even if you don't always use it, just the knowledge that, you know, you can do that if you want to. So I think just that, and you know, it speaks to Alan's point about the general kind of atmosphere that you created on set, and it was one where I think people felt really free to play around and have fun, and that no one was gonna, you know, be in any way sort of judgmental or go, "What are you doing?" You know, so there was none of that. It was great.
It's fun. You just start, you know, and you start, you know, trying different things out, and you know that's the point of it. And you know, I try to construct how you make a film. Many times the infrastructure or just the process of making a film can derail that, and I'm very protective about making sure that the lighting and the crew and everything, that they make sure it works fast enough. Because I've seen plenty of sets where you're like, okay, now we got to shoot, and you get 2 minutes, and I'm sure you guys have had that experience too, and you move on, and it's like, no, you're doing this ass backwards. You got to make sure not all of this is inconsequential unless you have the time to make it funny and to make it honest and heartfelt. And I think we had that on this film.
I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we have to wrap. And this is for any and all of you. You know, love is an endless, bottomless subject that we never get tired of watching. What do you think is all of you, any of you, the attraction for us as an audience, for you guys as filmmakers? Why is this subject always going to be the subject?
I think watching people connect is endlessly fascinating. I mean, to me, when film works best, it's an empathy machine. And I mean, I think in the absence of connecting emotionally with the characters and watching them genuinely connect on screen, we'll take other stuff. We'll take car chases and explosions and nudity and all that sort of stuff. But to me, those are just sort of filling the gaps of what we actually want, which is to watch people connecting with each other. I mean, I think it's an eternally fascinating thing. It can be hard to create that atmosphere. You need the right cast. You need a director that's going to create that atmosphere, which we fortunately had. But to me, there's nothing more interesting than watching people connect, try to communicate, miscommunicate, that struggle, because we deal with it every moment of our lives, and we're always fascinated because it's a catharsis, and it's enlightening.
I think for me, I mean, you know, as a director, I'm always trying to evoke an emotion when you make a film, and you know, mostly my career it's been sort of laughter, or it's been sort of cringe, or you know, it's something else. And one of the ones I'm a bit of a softie, one of the ones I love the most is sort of that romantic feeling in movies, and when that hits, it's really, you know, it's really why people go to see these types of movies. And so that was sort of the thing I was trying to get at in terms of being a director and with this film, and I think that's what people love about these romantic movies, is hitting that button with people, and hopefully we did that. You know.
Anybody in the cast, Adam or Megan, or anybody want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's like a hard thing to label. Maybe that's why it's so endlessly fascinating, and the not knowing or thinking you have a control on things is probably the same thing that pulled everyone here to acting, directing, writing, is the pursuit of it rather than the like knowing what the final answer is. You know, and that journey is kind of more fun, I guess, than finding an answer, because that's kind of lame, I guess, of having something that's so black and white, or something that you can put your finger on. I don't think I mean, just in things that I see, that's never really interesting, and that's I think you can say about lots of things, love being one of them, I guess, in this case, but that it is undefinable and shape-shifting and difficult to label.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. On that note, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on the film.
I always like start clapping and then like, oh, that's me. No, don't do that.